Should you pay off your debt or start investing? It's a big decision because if you get this wrong, it could cost you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. You've probably heard two completely opposite rules. Pay off your debt as soon as possible, or if you don't invest as soon as possible, you're going to be so far behind, right? But the truth is that both of those could actually be wrong for you personally. And how I know that is I paid off $43,000 worth of debt and built a net worth of multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars going through the same process that I'm going to be outlining in this video. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to decide, plus how a simple $666 a month rule can help you solve this. Let's start with why people say pay off debt first. And it comes down to one thing, the interest rates. Credit cards, typically around that 20 to 30% interest rate range. Personal loans, maybe the 10 to 12% range. And mortgages are around that 3 to 7% range. So if you have credit cards that are charging 20% interest, paying that off is like getting a 20% guaranteed return on your money. You're not going to really beat that kind of consistency in the stock market or, any other sort of investment. So in that case, the answer is really simple. Pay that off immediately. But here's where people mess that up. They take that specific advice and they apply it to all of their circumstances in their life. And here's what I mean. Because while debt has a cost, waiting to invest also has a cost. So let me show you. If you invest $200 a month at, let's say, a conservative 8% return on your money, after 10 years, you can see here it's about $36,000 return. After 20 years, it's going to be about $118,000 return. And after 30 years, it's going to be close to $300,000. And here's the crazy part with this last one, the 30 years. You've only invested $72,000, but over $200,000 of that principal amount or of that balance came from the growth, the money compounding on itself. And that's why this part is so sexy. But it only works if you start early. So if you delay investing for years just to become debt free, you might actually be worse off. Again, depending on your situation. So how do you decide? So here's the simplest way to think about it. You want to compare your debt interest rate to your expected investment return. So if your debt is 20% or more, pay it off. The amount of people that get larger than 20% returns on a consistent, regular basis, month after month, year after year, it's very, very small. Not a lot of people can do that. So unless you can do that, just pay off your debt. If your debt is in that 5% range, 5 to 7% range, maybe investing makes a little more sense. And if it's somewhere in the middle, it's actually not as clear as you might think. And this is why people get stuck. Higher earners get stuck because something like that 5 to 6% debt, paying it off versus investing often lead to very similar outcomes. And there's no obvious winner. And at that point, it's not math anymore. So when the math is obvious, like that super high debt percentage, that math is obvious. When the debt percentage is much lower, that math is obvious too. But in the middle, it comes down to more about behavior, right? Maybe our psychology, if you will, because investing only works if you stay consistent. Right? So if you started to invest early, but the market drops 10% and you panic sell everything and you get out of it, you stop contributing, then you're actually going to lose because on a long enough time horizon, the whole point of investing is to stay in it for the long term, right? So paying off the debt is kind of a guarantee return. So if you have to ask yourself, can I stick with investing long term? And am I going to be able to stick with those market shifts and it being a little uncomfortable seeing like one day your 401k is at 200,000, the next day it's at 170,000. What do you do in that situation, right? Or will I lose sleep carrying that amount of debt and that amount of financial pressure and stress on me and my family? Because the best strategy on paper actually means nothing if you don't follow it. And I see this a lot. I've talked to a lot of people in their personal finances. Everyone has ideas and things that they think will work, but it never gets put into any sort of action steps, which transitions awesomely into the $666 rule. This is an action step that you can take after watching this video. So here's how I like to simplify it. Working with people, this idea. Instead of choosing one or the other, what I like to recommend is the $666 rule. And if you can find a way to free that up per month, it's about $1,000 every 6 weeks or so. You now have options. You can knock off the high interest debt faster, right? Because if we're applying more money to our debt, the interest that we have to pay over a long period of time is going down, which is increasing the amount of cash that we have available in the future, right? We can start investing at the same time so that we can, start having that money compound. Because you saw in the example earlier, the money really starts compounding after a certain amount of time. The first, say, 100,000 is a bitch because most of that is just saving. Less of that is actually the money compounding on itself. So it takes time. Or split it between the two. If you're able to, find the $666 a month, $1,000 every 6 weeks, we're able to then diversify a little bit into where we're putting that money. You don't have to focus on only paying off the debt or only investing. You can kind of do both at the same time. We can have our cake and eat it too. Most people, in my opinion, they don't have an investing problem. They have a cash flow problem. They don't know where their money is going and they don't have a system to redirect it. And that's why they stay stuck in this debate forever. They go through these cycles of paying off debt for a period of time, for a few months, and it's like, oh man, my net worth isn't increasing. I don't feel like I'm making any progress. So they shift that extra money to their investing. But then when they start investing, they're like, oh man, it's not really compounding. Nothing's really happening here. It's basically like I'm just saving money. And then maybe they go back because they can't handle the financial pressure of being in debt. And no, this isn't about cutting everything that you enjoy. This is not cut, right? There are people online that talk about that, and it's very extreme. And yeah, maybe for a season or two in your life, or maybe a couple months, maybe that is the best strategy. But what I like to do and how I help people is creating a system that is sustainable instead of avoiding this seesaw battle that I like to talk about a lot. Because sure, you can go hard for a couple months, but what's going to happen? That's not sustainable for a period of time. So then you go back to the mean and you're like, maybe even worse off than you were before. And then you're like, oh man, I gotta get back on the seesaw. And it's this usual thing. So this feeling of needing to cut and needing to do these quick transformational things comes from maybe lifestyle creep. So as your income increases, so does your lifestyle. And then there's no surplus. There's no extra money to be had at the end of any month. The stupid stuff like subscriptions or the small leaks that you have in your personal finances, paying for certain conveniences consistently, when really, if you look at it at a long enough time horizon, the amount that stacks up over time, and really the big focus is just not having a system with your money. So once you fix those things, finding $500 to $1,000 a month seems super realistic, and that's why I landed on that $666 rule. So if you guys like the idea of that rule, let me know down in the comments. And if you really want to get a jump start into your money system, I'm doing a 6-week challenge helping you kind of rev start your money system, get it going, get it off the ground. Not only do we want our money to start compounding, but we want the skills and the habits to also start compounding, because what I've noticed is those are actually the foundation. Everyone wants the money outcome, but in order to do that, we need to, simplify our foundation. So I've opened up some spots for my 6-week challenge to help you A, do that, build up the foundation, but B, try to stack as much money as humanly possible in those 6 weeks so that you can apply it towards paying off your debt, investing, putting it towards a kid's future education account, right? Things like that. So if that's interesting to you, you can watch this video here if you want to find out more, or you can just book a call and see if you're a fit down below this video. I will see you in the next one.